All right, guys. 24 scale tire test number 20, if you can believe it. We are up to 20 of these things, which is wild. And today we have Proline Maxxis Trepador 1.0s. So these are, it says, oh boy, that's small print. It says 0.22 or 23 by 2.5. So I don't know what that is in millimeters. We'll have to do the conversion. They are, we'll get one that's already mounted. They are, so with those Injora silicones, boy, they're real close. They're real close. They might be a millimeter smaller in diameter than the Mavericks. And the Mavericks are 63s, so maybe they're 62, 63, somewhere in there. But we are going to mount up the last one here, show you guys. They are extremely directional, right? They're almost tractor tires. They're rounded. I think in the molding they're actually a rounded, but when we stuff them full of Injora yellows, they get a little more squared off. So that's pretty squared off. And they are a bit stuffed. So the carcass is pretty thick. No ribbing, no belting. And they're sticky, kind of. They're not sticky like the Injoras, right? So like the Mavericks or the Comp Pens or the Hyrax clones are not that sticky. I would say they're slightly less sticky than J-Concept's green, but maybe like in that neighborhood. But they definitely feel different from J-Concept's green. They don't feel like J-Concept's green. They don't feel like any other compound that I've come in contact with so far. They're stickier than the really cheap tires that we've tested. The really cheap Amazon stuff that's just not sticky at all. They're stickier than that for sure, but they're not as tacky sticky as J-Concept's green or Little Guy Racing. Their compound is much stickier, much tackier, and the Injora, I don't know, is it S5? I don't remember what compound they call like the Mavericks and all of those things. But they're not that sticky. They're a little sticky though. So I have reasonably high hopes for these. These are the first Proline 24 scale tires that I have ever come in contact with. And I think I've talked about Proline tires before. My experience with Proline tires is in the 10 scale world, so the 1.9s. I've had G8s, I've had Predators. Still got one set of Predators, Super Swampers, that still make an appearance occasionally. They're not on a rig right now. And you know what? We forgot to vent. Okay, so we're gonna vent them. This is a 2 millimeter leather punch, 2 millimeter hole. It's adjustable. It can do a bunch of different sizes, but we use the 2 millimeter hole for the 24 scale stuff. And I actually find myself using that 2 millimeter hole for 24 or 10 scale stuff too, quite a bit. I think it's adequate. So we punch a couple of holes. The carcass is not overly thick, but these lugs are deep, man. Like, these lugs are deep and aggressive. So I don't know how that's going to play out. I think being a little more squared off like they are. Oh, I didn't talk about the foam. So they came on these foams. I would call these like medium softs. They fit the tires pretty well. And the only way I could find them was already mounted on these plastic wheels. And those plastic wheels, you know, if I end up giving these tires away, I might just mount them all back up as they came. Of course, they'll be vented at that point. We can't undo that part, but I may mount them all back up as they came to me, because I have no use for plastic 1.0 beadlock wheels. I need a lot of weight typically on my rigs down low. So I run these, you know, we've talked about these hobby sold brass wheels. I run a lot of heavy wheels, and I can't imagine a scenario where I would want plastic beadlock wheels for a 24 scale rig. You know, there may be somebody out there who has good reason to want plastic wheels on one of these guys, but I am not one of those people, nor do I anticipate myself ever becoming one of those people. I don't, like I said, I can't see a scenario where I would want that. So if these do get given away eventually, they will probably be fully remounted on the plastic beadlock wheels with the included foams, and the only difference from when they were received will be that they will be vented. I'm getting that oil again, so there is an oiliness to these that hasn't proven to be really particularly good or bad in the past. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, we got them all. We got them all. They've all been vented. 2 holes per tire, and so we're in good shape there. Let's get them mounted up. So we got the heavier ones in the front, which have a big brass beadlock ring in them. So they will go up front, give us some more weight on the front side of Mr. Wiley, and then we will mount the rear wheels and tires, which are, they still have a brass beadlock ring. I believe it's still made of brass, but it's much thinner, much smaller, so it's much lighter than the ones that we have in the front. So give it a little bit of that forward bias that we need to climb steep ascents. So make sure I'm still moving freely there. Make sure we get them mounted on the correct side. Make sure I mounted them on the wheels correctly, which I think I did. But we may find out that one's backwards. No. We got them all mounted correct as far as directionality, which is a bonus, because that's not always the case. Sometimes we forget, sometimes we get confused, and sometimes we mount one backward. Usually it's one. Usually it's the last one that I mount. I usually, if I'm going to do it that day, I usually somehow figure out a way to mount the last one backwards, and I get all the way to this point, and I go to put it on, and I'm like, golly, we got to remount that. We got to take it off the wheel and start over. So there he is on the Prolines. This is my first set of treps, so I've never run treps before in any size. So this will be interesting. They've got, so that you can see there's like just some flashing from the mold, I guess, that's kind of keeping the center lugs together, which I don't think is going to help. I think that's actually probably going to hurt. But I'm surely not going to take the time to reach in there and peel back every one of those pieces of flashing, because there's, I mean, it's basically the whole, I can't even get a hold of it. It's so, but I mean, I could see where getting in there and pulling all this out might actually be beneficial, because you know, you want those lugs to be able to move independently, and this is going to somewhat tie them together. So if I were serious about running these, if I really wanted to run these Treps and I had a set, I would probably go through this process of getting in here with some tweezers and pulling all that flashing out. I've done that before on other tires. I'm trying to think of which ones they were, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But I have done this to tires before when they had a bad flashing, ring around them to try to allow us. Because see, now those two tread blocks can move much more independently. These two are still tied together by that flashing line. So if I go in there and pull all that junk out, that frees up both of those tread blocks a little bit more. So not going to do it for the tire test. But like I said, if I were planning on keeping these and running them, that's probably something I would at least seriously consider taking the time to do. This one's not as bad. That one's pretty bad. That one's not as bad. So yeah, it seems like maybe not every tire is like that, but they all have pretty significant flashing in between those center tread blocks. So anyway, let's get them on the board, see how he does. All right. Proline Treps. We're going to see how they do on the left cut. Oh yeah, they did well. Proline Treps, center cut. Little trouble getting up onto the board, but once they're up, what do? Not too shabby. All right, now we're gonna go right cut, and based on what I've seen so far, I'm not sure they're gonna get this. Not sure they're gonna get this, but we'll see. Well, that was a pretty decent attempt at pulling up there. Got that rear diff hung. This might be a diameter issue more than anything. No, it's a traction issue as well. That we just can't get the traction that we would have to pull up. Give it a little more. They have very little hop. You see a little bit of it there, but there are a lot of tires that are hopping long before these start hopping as far as throttle input. All right, take two on the right cut, and I gotta say, I don't have a lot of hope here, guys. I think these are gonna fail this obstacle, but I gotta really watch the rear diff, give them the best chance that they could have, and they're right back into that same hole that they found themselves in the last attempt. All right, third try for the Treps. I think we're just going to try to stay right this time. Some tires can do this, yeah, but not these. All right, we're on the upper portion now, and we're going to see if the Treps can hang on to the left cut. They seem to be doing pretty well so far. I think they can do it. We get that big push, but we get the turn in. Oh yeah. And it's that diameter, I think. So they do suffer a little bit because of the diameter, but they were definitely able to pull it. I think they did pretty well. All right, with the Treps doing the slot. Pretty good approach. We got to stay right. It's going to try to pull us off. Oh yeah, we got it. No, that was real nice. That was real nice. Almost no hesitation. All right, middle cut for the Treps. We need a little more wheel speed to get up and over. So they definitely lack a little bit of the traction of like the Mavericks or some of the other ones that we've tested recently. But they are going to pull this, which is pretty impressive. That's a pretty tough section, and they did well. So, all right, Treps on the right side. I think we may. They're a little squirrely, and they're going to lack a little bit of that reach down because of the diameter. So we'll see how they do. We're going to get bellied right here. Oh, but they actually pulled through that very well. Now we're rear diff just a little bit, and we gotta move back and forth to get our way off of that. We can't get too far to either side in that process. There we go, there we go. Yeah, that was nice. And now we're diff. No, I think there we go. So he struggled a little bit more than I thought he would there. But again, most of that is due to diameter, to the height of the tire. So the smaller the tire, the more he's going to get hung up on that line. But he was able to maneuver around and pull himself off, so pretty good. All right, so we're back on the bench with the Proline Treps. There's your score sheet. He got a 50. 50 puts him in 10th place. So he's smack in the middle of our 20 tires that we've tested so far. That puts him 1 point above the black label from Little Guy Racing and 2 points below the Mias Super Bouncer. So I'm somewhat impressed, I have to say. I don't know what this compound is. They don't list it as far as I can tell, so it's not like the 1.9s where they say it's G8 or Predator. It's not as soft as Predator, in my opinion, and it's not as hard as G8. So I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think that's why they don't say, because it's neither of those, in my opinion. I don't believe this is Predator, and I don't believe that it is G8. I think it's something else. What it is, I don't know, because they don't say. But they did reasonably well. I was reasonably surprised. I was not expecting much out of them, to be honest with you. They are just a hair shorter than the Mavericks. The Mavericks are at 63. I've got these listed at 63. But, you know, it's tough because they do feel slightly smaller than the Mavericks. So, but yeah, I mean, you know, at their very widest point, yeah, I would say they're right at 63. So, you know, they're listing 2.5, which is, they're not that big for sure. They are, yeah, 2.45, 63, right in there somewhere. So, my only, I mean, they are what they are, right? They didn't do all that great. They didn't do as well as the new offerings from Majora. They didn't do as well as, I don't think they did as well as any of the J Concepts. Yeah, actually they did better than Ruptures. They did better than Landmines. They did worse than the Little Guy Racing Gripper. They did worse than the Rock Bump. They did worse than the Hold. So to me, there are a lot of tires that I would put above these. The other thing that I don't like about them, and I like Proline. You know, this is a Proline body. I mean, I've got lots of Proline stuff. I'm not particularly a huge fan of their tires. I don't love their 1.9 tires, and I don't love these either, to be honest. But one of the things that you know, I like the least about these, honestly, are these wheels. I don't know who's looking for lightweight 24 scale wheels. I mean, who wants these things? Nobody, in my opinion. I don't know who wants those things. So, Proline, if you're listening to this, which of course you aren't, but if someone sends you a link to this, or someone who knows someone at Proline can talk to them, nobody wants those wheels. Nobody wants them. So, don't make us pay for them, because we don't want them. The only way I can find Proline tires currently, at least to my knowledge, is pre-mounted on wheels that nobody wants. These foams are not great either. So, you know, they do a great job with two-stage foams in the 1.9 world. They're expensive, but the prices come down a little bit, so they're a little bit more competitive now. Give us a better foam and no wheels, or give us the same foam and no wheels and drop the price. That's my recommendation. Nobody wants those wheels, so don't make us buy them because we don't want them. I don't know who wants those. So that's my recommendation to Proline. Just give us the tires, guys. Just give us the tires. And the foams that you're giving us are not really good. So I mean, you can even get rid of these. Drop the price even more. No foams, no wheels. Just give us the tires. Let us put some good foams in them, and I think you'll have happier customers at that point. So, but anyway, that's it for this one. They did better than expected. Not good enough, in my opinion, to go out and buy them to put them on like a comp rig. Like if you're looking for a comp tire on a comp rig, you know, we're into the Mavericks, we're into the Holds, we're into the Hyrax clones from Injora, the Little Guy Racing grippers. You know, there are other better, in my opinion, better choices. But if you really like Treps, if you have a build that you really want to put Treps on, I think you can put these on there and know that they are at least a competent rock crawling tire, that they're not going to be, you know, the absolute downfall of that vehicle is not going to be the tires if you decide to run the Proline Treps. So that's it for this one. Thanks, guys.